Hey all, this is 012 Boku, and I'm coming at you with another review of, not going to try to move right now, because as you guys can sort of see in the background in my room, bright, very, very bright spots. So, brightness going on all crazy. Yeah, that's where I shaved and cut myself, yeah. As you can see, I also freshly shaved. But yeah, coming at you with another review of this Fullmetal Alchemist, the original. We are on... Here again, sorry for any glare. We are on episode 12, The Other Brothers Elric, part 2. And in this one, you have it where after the Elric and the fake Elric Brothers confrontation, the one little brother we know, Fletcher, got injured falling in the refined red water of what we believe to be the Philosopher's Stone. And you know, they're fighting each other over this, and apparently, we'll come to know him as Russell. We don't know his name yet, but it's Russell. Russell and Edward are still arguing. Alphonse is trying to be the in-between. All the meanwhile, Fletcher uses his alchemy to grow, you know, the plants to block the door from Mugir and his men getting into the compound, you know, because Fletcher wants the Elrics to escape. The Elrics escape. Mugir get in, and Fletcher's saying, you know, not Fletcher, Russell tells Mugir that they chased off the intruders. Mugir's happy because he asks about the stone's okay. All of a sudden, though, takes a little bit of a sinister turn because, meanwhile, you know, Russell is healing Fletcher's wounds, and he also admonishes Fletcher, you know, you shouldn't have used alchemy. Father didn't like it that you did, but both Fletcher and Russell know alchemy pretty dang well. And, you know, it goes along, and you have Mugir, who's happy that the stone's okay, and he uses it as a refine, and he turns it into, like, he's got this one lantern, sort of like alchemic elixir weapon thing, and what he does is he actually ties up Russell, because he asks Russell to use the contingency plan, which is pretty heinous of what it is. And the contingency plan, I believe he goes over it with the Elrics, but the contingency plan is using the townspeople and pregnant women with the red water especially to develop into their children to produce the expected result of the Philosopher's Stone and what he wants to do, which is get alchemically stronger. So Mugir doesn't care if he kills people. He's showing his true colors and being awfully psychotic at this point, but he uses his, like I said, flask lantern thing to tie up the Fletcher brothers, and I do believe I wrote it down here. Let's see, no, we have Russ Fletcher, let's see, no, I had it here, where there's the rescue and everything we're getting to, oh, Nash Trigham. So, yeah, so Russell and Fletcher's real name is Russell and Fletcher Trigham, because their father is Nash Trigham, and Mugir figured it out, and knowing that, you know, and Fletcher and blah, blah, blah. Oh, Fletcher and Russell were lying. Sorry, brain fart there. That Fletcher and Russell were lying, and that he knew they weren't the Elric brothers, considering he knows Alphonse and Edward are like considered metal, and that Edward also has a auto-mail arm. So Mugir knew all that, and as I told you before, Mugir's working with Lust, so we probably got a few things from Lust. So you have the Elrics escape. Belcio actually shelters them back, and you know, Belcio takes the Elrics in to hide them, and Belcio tells the Elrics of Nash Trigham, Russell and Fletcher's father, about how he used to be an alchemist in the town, went along and went to Central to do his work. He left Central, he came back almost like a ghost of his former self, saying that he betrayed his family, he'll never go back to Central, he'll never do that work that he wants him to do again. So he's like a completely different person. And all of a sudden you have Mugir, who's the Baron of the town, a rich Baron who recently moved there, who wants Nash to reopen his project on the Red Water. Nash is really hesitant, refuses him several times. All of a sudden, Mugir plays to Nash's mind with this desperation of saving the town. Don't you want to save the town? Be a hero. This town can grow gold again. You'll be looked at as a hero and you'll save the town. So in that many ways, Nash gets tricked into doing this. And then all of a sudden, Belcio tells the Elric Brothers that the town boomed again. The gold came alive. People were happy. But as a side effect of this happening, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, children were getting birth defects. They were getting sick from like red water they were finding in their water supply. And most children were ending up being killed by this thing. And you also have, I believe, Belcio talking about, it was Elena, his niece, who was sick from the red water. And now we get a actual thing of, if you guys remember from Brotherhood, we get our first mention of Dr. Marco and him having a Philosopher's Stone, using it to lessen the effects of Elena's injuries from the red water. And then that's their first nod into Dr. Marco that comes into the story. And then, Belcio says that, long after it happened, you had Nash run into him again, and Nash tells Belcio, I'm going to fix this. It's going to end. It's not going to happen anymore. And, he basically just takes off into the woods, and Belcio tells Elric Brothers they'll never see him again. And they're also worried about Elena because they know Elena's getting sick and the red water has something to do with it. We also go back to Russell and Fletcher, who are still, bound in a dungeon. They're not tied up with floorboards that turn into ropes anymore from Mugir using his device. They're actually locked in a stockade to keep their hands still from them both using their alchemy. And then, Mugir's taunting them, saying, your thing was so simple, you just had to do this thing to me that I wanted, and you couldn't do it, so you'll just be here while I do what I need to do, and I'll finish you later. You get this hint that Russell and Fletcher are not in for good times. All of a sudden, as Mugir's walking away, Russell demands that Mugir tell him what really happened to their father, because he actually let slip. I forgot Mugir let slip that if your father had did what he did, he'd still be alive, and Russell demands to tell him what he known. And Mugir basically says, well, your father refused me the way you refused me, and I had to make sure that he needed to be gotten rid of and never seen again. In Japanese, it was different, that, your father refused me and he disappeared. But in this one, the way Mugir plays it is that, I had to kill your father, essentially. So I like the English version of that way better. Russell's distraught. Fletcher's sad for his brother. I'm pretty sure Fletcher's sad for what happened to their dad. But, Mugir walks away to implement this next plan. The next day, though, the Elrics actually show up to Mugir's office, wanting to help him work on the red water. Mugir's all ecstatic. And then, Edward wants to know what's to be done with the imposters. Mugir says they're going to be executed. And Edward's like, oh yeah, me and Alphonse will do it. People taking my likeness are going to have to pay. You want to come watch? Oh, no. No, I'm good. I don't want to get my hands dirty. I'm good. And, Edward's like playing it up, and Alphonse's like, you're really loving this, aren't you, Edward? And so they go down to see Fletcher and Russell. They basically set them free and, set them straight, saying, do good with your life, don't do what you were doing with the red water. And Russell basically tells the Elric Brothers that it was their dad's dream. He wanted to see it to fruition. Fletcher actually gets into Russell's cooler head, saying, our dad's dream destroyed him. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't want that, and I don't want that for you, Russell. Russell listens to Fletcher and, at that point decidedly drops it. You have the Elrics go back to Mugir. Mugir thinks he's got the Elrics all fooled, but the Elrics and Mugir fight. Mugir uses his elixir, which he's got plenty of made-up Philosopher's Stones, and he's using it to attack them, getting the Elrics in a tight corner. all of a sudden Fletcher and Russell come back. They use a plan to basically grab Mugir, and then I believe have a bookcase or so, slammed on him, or maybe that's what the Elrics did. I forget who exactly did that one. But then, Russell and Edward taunted up again, and then they go back to Mugir. Mugir escaped down a secret passageway to where they try to get to him. He's got a cannon with alchemy that he's trying to fire at him. The Elrics and, the Triggums basically stop all that from happening. And, what happens is that their fight, though, with the cannon and what Edward did is causing a chain reaction and the mountain to rupture, and the red water is rupturing off the mountain. Basically, as it's rupturing, it's starting to explode behind Mugir. Mugir is not wanting to give up the spring. All of a sudden, part of the ceiling of the cave comes down, and a big rock just basically crushes Mugir dead. The Triggums and the Elrics get out of there as the water is starting to leak out. They know that this town is going to be doomed if it touches anyone in the town, just like how Fletcher almost got severely hurt by it, and how anyone else breathing in the thing or the fumes of the red water could be killed by it. So you have Edward, try to set up a wall that keeps the red water in and from going out from the town. Fletcher all of a sudden goes to a tree, almost like he's praying to God in a way, to use his alchemy. His alchemy glows, and the trees start soaking up the red water. Russell actually, surprised by his brother Fletcher, goes and amplifies its power, helping his brother out. And then these trees turn absolutely red. And then Fletcher and Russell use one more bit of alchemy to disintegrate the trees. And I'm going to say effectively create a cure for everybody else who's coughing from the wet red water, because after you see them leave the town of Xenotime, you have Elena not coughing anymore. No one seems to be coughing or sick. So, everybody's just very happy over this time. And Fletcher and Russell Triggum are actually staying with Belcio to help grow fruit and help, revitalize the town, and doing it their own way with better alchemy. Russell actually wants to tell Edward how to make the red water to possibly create a Philosopher's Stone, so if he ever needs it, he can use it for better purposes than what they do. Edward rejects it, and you have Alphonse and Edward leave the town, and then there's a letter that Russell left for them, and Russell is grateful that Edward and Alphonse set him straight, and he's like, for me being a year younger than you, it's so funny how you, were so much uptight than me. And Edward gets upset with this because, Russell is obviously taller than him. So, it's just a funny little thing that continues. Oh, yeah, and I also forgot to mention, Lust showed up in this episode again and threatened Dr. Mugir if he couldn't get this done. And, basically saying, you have to get this done or else, it's your butt on the line. So, Lust checking in, making sure things are going their way, which obviously they don't. They're going to find out Mugir's dead. So that is also moving along nicely, too. In this one, to break it down really quick, I have to say, Edward, Vic Mignogna, Romy Pagu, Alphonse Aaron Dismuke, Ria Kugamiya were really good. Again, I don't think he was as good in the second one as it was the first episode, but I have to give it to Russell, Justin Cook, Kosuke Okano, and especially when he found out about his dad, the pain that Justin Cook especially put on, and Kosuke Okano too, when he found out his father was dead. Fletcher, I do have to give it to Fletcher too. Avery Williams as a kid, he did do a pretty good performance in the second episode, better than the first, so I got to give an edge to Avery Williams. But I have to give it to Minako Arakawa. She put on a great performance in Japanese for Fletcher. That was really good. Let's see. And then another was, oh yeah, I have to give it to Mugir. Bill Flynn, Takayuki Godoy. Bill Flynn and Takayuki Godoy put on a very villainous performance, and especially Bill Flynn. Bill Flynn, I think, is the MVP of this episode. He just completely turned villainous and just dogmatic and ambitious, just dark character. It was really just cool to see. And sorry guys, yeah, the monitor went to sleep. I didn't want that to happen, but yeah, Bill Flynn is the MVP of this episode. Overall, though, this was a great episode. It gives us another tidbit into Dr. Marco, them leading closer to the Philosopher's Stone, knowing that they don't know about the homunculi but the homunculi were trying to use this as a bigger plan for their plans, building a Philosopher's Stone. So we know the Philosopher's Stone was tied into this. How else is it tied in? But it opens up all these new avenues. And what do you guys think? Have you guys, again, seen the original, seen this episode? Just let me know down in the comments below and we'll get this discussion going. Until then, this is Zone 1 Boku, and I'll see you guys later, alright? See ya.